long did you host it, and from when to when?
Well, let's see. I actually first heard about the show. I learned about the group. It was around mid to late '99, like around the end of the summer '99, and it just so happened that there was oh, and I'm terrible with names. I'm so embarrassed because I can't remember the guy's name. But he was he worked camera on the show at that time. And at that time, the show was a Sunday morning show. It was like 9 to 10:30, 9:30 to 11, or 9 to 10:30 a.m., one of those. And I think I met him just by chance one afternoon because I had just parked and was going into my apartment, and he was pulling up behind me, and he kind of stopped and waved at me, and I went over to talk to him. And because he had noticed the back of my car, I had a little Darwin fish and stuff on it. And I think I also had the science fish at the time, too, which is the science with the fish with the little rocket tails on the back. So, and I had them sort of facing each other. And he just pulled me aside and just struck up a conversation and asked me, so if you don't mind, I'm asking, like, what's your religious affiliation? I mean, are you atheist or what? And I was like, yeah, well, I would call myself atheist. You know, and he said, well, I don't know if you know this, but there's this group in town, and we have a television show, an atheist television show every Sunday on Access. I'm like, you're kidding me. He's like, no. So I said, well, thanks for letting me know, and we talked a bit more and then went our ways. And that Sunday, I don't know why, but I happened to be up. I might have even intentionally gotten up to watch the show. I mean, I might have actually been that conscientious about it, because I'm not a morning person by any stretch of the imagination. Certainly not a Sunday morning person. They always say one of the benefits of atheism is you get to sleep in on Sundays.
On Sundays.
I take that little perk to full advantage. I mean, hell, I barely got up in time to get here today.
Wow.
Yeah, I got up and I turned it on, and it was maybe about halfway through the show, it was a little after 10 or something, and I saw Jeff D in full rant mode, and I'm like,
which is one of life's best pleasures.
This is wonderful. I can't believe it. And he's just voicing everything that I've internalized.
Yeah.
You know, he's just giving it full reign. I thought this is fantastic. So I watched it a few more times. Then when I bumped into that guy again, I'm like, this is terrific. I enjoyed watching the show. Thanks for letting me know. And he said, well, you know, I work on the show. And then, you want to come down to the studio sometime? I was like, yeah, okay, sure. And I did that. I mean, I got up really groggy, got up really early and showered and sort of staggered down. And I followed him out to the studio and I met everybody. And I ended up working like B camera for a while. You know, I joined the crew at that time and got to know everybody. So it was like him on A camera and me on B camera. And it was in the bigger studio next door at that time, so it was a 3-camera setup. And after a while of just doing it, I guess that I had made my interest known, and Jeff said, why don't you just come up and be a guest on the show at some point? And I did that, and that would have been about March of 2000, I think, was my first on-air appearance as a guest. And then Ray Blevins was the host at that time. Jeff D was co-host, and then Ray left the show. Jeff moved into the host chair. Another fellow moved in. But he didn't last as co-host very long. I think he was either job, time constraints related to that or something. He just couldn't maintain the weekly Sunday morning every single week kind of thing. So he was only co-host for maybe about 3 or 4 months. And that was when Jeff D invited me to be co-host. So in a very short time, I went from like camera guy to co-host. So that would have been about summer or like around the end of summer 2000. So I did that, I guess, for about a year and a half. And then Jeff finally decided he was ready to leave. And I stepped into the host chair, I think, in March of 2002, something like that, and stayed there until March of 2004. So I was co-host for about, it might have been a little before then. But I was on the air, I think, solidly for about 4 years. So I think it was about a year and a half of that was co-host and 2.5 years was host.
Yeah. It's nice to hear that our indoctrination process hasn't changed much. Jeff D is almost entirely responsible for me being on this show. Mm-hmm. There were some people at work who knew that I was an atheist and told me about the show, and I kind of blew them off. I was like, I don't need to watch that. It's public access, and why would I want to listen to people who already agree with me and are saying what I already think? But Jeff D used to live in my apartment complex, the one that I moved into, and had posted a flyer on the mailbox.
Oh.
And I thought, well, okay, somebody at work mentioned it. Now I found a flyer. God must want me.
That's it.
I'm kidding.
You're getting a sign from above.
So I did record it.
Join the opposition.
And watched, and I watched a few episodes before I actually called in. And then I came down and met folks down at the Chili's when we were going over there.
Yeah.
And then the only reason that I'm actually on the air, I came in and did some camera work and call screening and whatever else. But Jeff D didn't show up one week. And Ashley was hosting at the time and said, "Well, you want to go on the air?" And I was like, "Okay, yeah, I'll give it a shot." And so that worked out about the same.
Yeah.
So one of the things we're going to end up talking about tomorrow, we're going to have, or not tomorrow, next Sunday, we're going to have all of the other hosts, with the exception of you and Ray. I haven't heard anything from Ray yet, but what are some of your favorite memories of the time that you were hosting or co-hosting?
Favorite memories? Well, there are plenty of memories. One favorite memory, of course, would have been the time we all went to Hell House. That would have been. Everybody else chickened out, and I was so annoyed with them. But I was like the only guy. I walked into this damn church wearing my Atheist Community of Austin T-shirt, and because I was like, let's all wear our T-shirts. And make it obvious. And I was the only guy who did. Everybody else was dressed in, like civilians, and I was like, but we did. But it was. It became like they spread it all about. I think once I turned up, I think it's sort of like went through the line of
right.
There's all the people there and working the thing, and it's like there's atheists here. I think they must have done that because by the time we kind of got to the end of it, we got out of it. There was like this little posse that was ready to sort of confront us in the parking lot and just drill us with questions and try to like engage us. And after the thing, we ended up having like this 20-minute. Just sort of debate out in the parking lot where, it's interesting when you kind of get face to face with believers and try to debate them, and they go into preacher mode where they just on and on and on and on, so as not to let you get a word in edgeways and answer their questions. And and it's all they just don't really listen. They just kind of want to preach. And
they're waiting for their turn to talk again. And
it was interesting the way the guy would just sort of he would contradict himself sometimes from sentence to sentence, and then I would make a point, and then he would reiterate the point I made, which was directly the opposite of the point that he was trying to make, and in order to make it seem like I was agreeing with him. I mean, there was just no real logical flow to his monologue at all. He was just bouncing all around. In an effort to try to stay control of the situation. And what ended up happening was that our little group attracted such a crowd in the parking lot that it was taking away from Hell House. And so finally, I guess manager of the thing or whoever the dude was running it just kind of asked us if we wouldn't mind leaving now because it was getting a little out of hand. There literally was. There was like us in this kind of circle. There was myself. Ashley was present. He'll be able to give you his reminiscence about it too, I guess. And then there were two others of us confronting like this little circle of, like 3 or 4 of them.
Right.
It was like us, them. And then there was just this little Oort cloud surrounding us, like this audience. And I think they kind of got annoyed with that because people weren't going into Hell House. They were all just watching the parking lot debate.
For people who've been watching clips on YouTube, if this clip happens to make it to YouTube, it's worth pointing out that you can watch the entire show by going to the website, www.atheist-experience.com. as well as archived shows by clicking on the show archive there. Most of them are on Google Video, some of them are on Blip TV. The content of this video is produced by the Atheist Community of Austin, a nonprofit educational organization promoting positive atheism and the separation of church and state. If you enjoyed this content and are willing and able to provide a donation, please visit the website below.